Hi everyone, today we're going to start a new chapter, chapter 6, and our first lesson is on nth roots and rational expressions. So you all are familiar with square roots, but today we're going to learn that there are more than just square roots. And so instead of just writing something like this, which is a square root, we are now going to have what's called an index. And that index is going to be indicated with the letter N, and that means that we are taking a root that's different than a square root, maybe a third root or a fourth root or a fifth root, etc. So let's go ahead and talk about some properties of these roots. So whenever we have an N value that is even, then there are three possibilities. If we have an A value, the value under the radical, equal to 0, then we're going to only have one real root. If we have even, but the A value is greater than 0, then we're going to have two real roots. And if A is less than 0, we're going to have no real roots or solutions, because at that point we have a negative under the root symbol, under the radical, and so that means that we're going to have imaginary numbers and not real numbers. When the root is odd, we are always going to just have one real root. And so an example of that would be if we had the third root of negative 27, we need to think to ourselves, what number could I multiply by itself 3 times in order to get negative 27? Well, we know it's got to be a negative number, and if we think about the numbers that would multiply to 27, 3 comes to mind. 3 times 3 times 3 would give me 27. But if those threes are negative, then it's going to give me negative 27. So the third root of negative 27 is equal to negative 3. I want to also show you some examples of the even N values, but I'm going to write them down here where I've got a little bit of space in my notes. So for A equals 0, that would be something like the square root of 0, or it could be a fourth root or a sixth root. It honestly doesn't matter. If the A value is 0, then our root is going to be 0. And since 0 can't have a positive or negative, that means that there's only one real root. If A is greater than 0, then using an example that you've seen before, the square root of 25, our roots would be positive or negative 5. And then for A less than 0, so let's say that we still have that 25, but now it's negative, we are not going to have any real roots, no real roots. But remember from what we learned last semester, our roots do exist, they're just imaginary, and it would be plus and minus 5i, our imaginary unit, which is equal to the square root of negative 1. If we want to find the indicated nth roots of A, then these are the steps we would use if we are using our calculator in class. We would type in the N value and then hit the math key and select option 5, and then type in the number that's under the radical, which is our A value, and then enter, and that will give us our answer. However, if you're watching this video, you're probably not in class. So I'm going to show you on the first example how to do this using the Desmos scientific calculator.